So the next thing is called interval notation. This is kind of think about it as like a shorthand. So it's like a math shorthand language kind of, okay? So I'm just going to write like main points to keep in mind up here. So anything that you would use an open dot for, so like your less than or your greater than, that is going to translate over to parentheses, okay? I would write this down if I were you. And then anything that you would use a closed dot for, so like your equal to's, that's going to translate over to brackets. So equal to is brackets, not equal to is parentheses. Okay? Think about it as like you're learning the alphabet right now for this. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind, an arrow going to the left is heading towards negative infinity, and an arrow going to the right is headed towards positive infinity. And then infinities always get parentheses. And the idea is because you can't ever be infinity. It can't be equal to, okay? And then for interval notation, you always are kind of doing from left to right. You'll see. So we have like 4 different examples here, so I'm going to walk you through how it was made, and then we'll try to make it ourselves, okay? So for this first one, just a normal plane inequality. X is greater than or equal to 2. So you're always moving from left to right. So we're starting at what number? 2 with a closed dot, right? So since it's a closed dot, that's going to be a parenthesis or a bracket? A bracket, yep. And then it's heading to the right. So what is that heading towards? Yep, positive infinity. And infinity always gets what? A bracket or parenthesis? Parenthesis, yep. So that's how this was made. So it's bracket with the 2, and then the positive infinity with the parenthesis. Okay? Next one. X is less than 2. So this arrow is going to the left, so what's that heading towards? Yep, negative infinity, and infinity always gets which one? Parenthesis. And that's stopping at an open circle at 2. Open circles get what? Parentheses or brackets? Parentheses, yep. So that's why it's negative infinity, 2, and they both have parentheses. It's always left to right. Okay? So if you're starting with a negative infinity, you know that your arrow is pointing to the left. If you're ending with a positive infinity, you know an arrow is pointing to the right. Okay? So now our 2 compound ones. This one's an and compound. So it's between 2 values. So it's starting at what number? 1, and it's open, so parenthesis or bracket? Parenthesis. Ending at what number? 5 equal to, so which one? Bracket. Yep, so that's how that was made. There's no infinities because there's no arrows. It's contained between 2 numbers. Okay? And then the last one is your or. So going in both directions. So over here, this arrow pointing to the left is heading towards what? Yeah, negative infinity. And that always gets a what? Parenthesis. And it's stopping at what number? Negative 3, and it's an open dot, so what do I use? Parenthesis. And then it's picking back up at what number? 4, and it's a closed dot, so what do I use? Bracket. And the arrow to the right is heading towards what?
Positive infinity.
Yep, positive infinity, and that always gets a what?
Parenthesis.
Parenthesis. Yep. So for that one, you're doing them as 2 separate deals. The negative infinity to the negative 3, and then the 4 to the positive infinity, and just putting the word or between it still.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those things where like your brain's gonna feel a little mushy because of it. Once it clicks forever, and like you'll be good and you'll want to use it all the time. But it just might take a minute to click. Okay. So we're gonna practice setting these up. Okay. I would try as much as you can to not use the graph as a middle step because you're gonna want to be able to just go back and forth without a graph every time. So let's look at this one. So picture what the graph would look like in your head. So is that an and or an or? And, right? So the line is going to be between the two numbers. So where is my graph starting? On the left, where is it starting? At -4, right? And is it equal to or not equal to? Equal to, so am I going to use a parenthesis or a bracket? Bracket for equal to, yep. Comma. And then where's my line ending? At 6. Is that equal to or not equal to? Not equal to, so what would I use? Parenthesis, yep. So then on a graph, is it an open or a closed dot at -4? Closed. What about at 6? Open, and then it's connected between. Okay, so then the or, that one's not contained between two numbers. You have both of your infinities on each end, okay? So for this one, the arrow's going to the left to start. So you'll start with negative infinity. And that one always gets a what? Parenthesis, yep. And then where is that one stopping? Where's my first dot at? -1, yep. And since that's not equal to, what would I use? Parenthesis, yep. Then put the word or. And then the second one is starting at what number? 2. And then parenthesis or bracket. Parenthesis. And the arrow is going all the way to the right to what? Infinity. And that one always gets a what? Parenthesis. Yep. So these kind of look like what the graph looks like. So between two numbers, right? Or you have the infinities on each end because those are the arrows, and then the dots on the center. Okay? Mm-hmm.
So
No, so this is basically saying that your graph has points all the way from negative infinity to -1, then it's jumping to 2, and then has points all the way to positive infinity. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay. So here, am I going to do an open or a closed dot at -1? Open, and then we know it's going that way. And then what about at 2? Open, and we know it's going that way. Okay? If your brain feels mushy, it's okay. It'll settle and click soon, if it hasn't already. All right, go ahead and go to the got it and try that one. So you're kind of doing the reverse on that one. You have the interval notation. You're trying to turn it back into an inequality. Are we ready to go over this one? Yeah? Okay, so can we tell, at least when we look at these, which one's the and which one's the or? Yes, so which one's the top one? The or. So we know those just mean that it's pointing in both directions, and those are where your dots are at, okay? So for this one, start with x. X is it going to be less than or greater than to start? Yep, less than, and then is it going to have the equal to? How can you tell? So look at the number. Where is it at? 1, right? Does that have a parenthesis or a bracket? A bracket, so you know it's equal to. Okay? So x is less than or equal to 1. Or x is, so is this one going to be less than or greater than? Greater than. And then look at the 5. Is it going to have the equal to? Nope. 5, and that's it. Make sense? So you're mainly focusing just on the middle, the two on the insides, okay? All the infinities are telling you is that it's an or because it's going in both directions, okay? So here, is it open or closed at 1? Closed. And then at 5? Open. Yep. Okay, is this one an and or an or? An and. So where should my x go? Yep, in the middle. So you have -4 and 3. You know they're both less than always. So do either of them get the line? Which one? Yep. So is it open or closed at -4? Closed, and then what about at 3? Open. Yep, and like that. Got it? Okay. All right. Okay, so for your lesson check, number 1 and 2. There we go. Okay, so you are solving and graphing the answer. So it's this. Okay, so solve and graph those. And then for 3 and 4, you're writing an interval notation. Take a couple minutes on that, and then I'll put the answers up. Can I put the answers up? Okay. And then I'm going to turn on announcements because they weren't ready for fourth hour, so they're having us play them. So, I mean, the bell might ring while they're going, but that's fine. Okay, so here's what your answer should be.